Story 1. Am I the a-hole for leaving a birthday party because of a racist translation request? I went to a birthday party for Annie, my sister, 34 female. I, 36 male, and my wife, 36 female, went as we were able to get her parents to watch the boy, our 16-month-old son. It was a normal adult birthday party as she had no kids. She had some of her friends over and our parents. I'm white and all of my family are white, important for the story. My wife is Chinese. She was born in China and became a citizen when she and her family moved to the US when she was 16. She's 100% a US citizen, has no green card, and she and all her family speak Mandarin. My wife can speak English very well, but her family, mostly elders, don't speak a lick of it. I've been learning Mandarin as it's my wife's cultural language. It's cool as F, but I want the boy and future children to be able to speak both of our languages. It's been about 2.5 years, and I'm not very conversational yet, but I pick up on a lot of things, can understand the basic gist of most conversations, and I can speak basic sentences like, "Is the food hot?" or "The boy's diaper has been changed?" etc. I've also learned how to read and write Mandarin. Mostly read right now as I find it helps me learn better, and I sometimes drop cool sentences into the family chat on Facebook. Annie doesn't speak very much of it, but will post Fox articles, usually articles about China, that are very critical of the government. I'm not sure if she's racist against Chinese people. She's never said anything negative to my wife in any way. So, last night we were at the dinner table when Annie handed me a slip of paper. I ask what this is as I unwrap it. It says, Tiananmen Square, 1989, and I look up at her, and she has this dumb grin on her face. I ask her what this is, and she goes, "Can you translate that into Mandarin?" This is where people seem to think I'm the a-hole. I got freaking mad. I immediately started yelling, calling her a racist, and said we were leaving. My mom and dad got mad. Annie said I was being dramatic, and her friends, all of whom are white, didn't see what the big deal was. I told everyone off using very big adult words before leaving. My phone started blowing up with text messages saying, "You're not even Chinese, what the hell," and "You ruined her birthday party." I briefly spoke to my mom this morning, where I tried to explain why what she did was racist, targeted toward me and my family, and unacceptable behavior. I told my mom that I wouldn't be going to the house anymore if she was there, and that she needed help. My mom softly echoed what my sister said. With all these text messages, I'm not sure anymore if I overreacted. My wife was unaffected by the whole thing, but understands why I'd be upset. I don't know. Am I the a-hole for reacting this way? I don't think you're the a-hole for reacting this way. I think that your family needs to... Again, we had this a few videos ago, or maybe even last video, I don't remember, where, like, people seem to be more upset that, someone is, making a scene, rather than being upset for the thing that they should be upset about. Like, that wasn't an okay thing to be doing. It was racist. And, people will say, oh, well, the guy's wife, who is Chinese, just kind of was like, oh, whatever, But she's also probably had to deal with that her whole life and has learned to just not make a big deal, especially when she is the only Chinese person there. Like, if she's making a big deal, she's gonna feel really othered by all these other people there who don't understand. So, I don't know. Maybe you could have handled it better, or, the thing that I've learned to do, I can't remember who first came up with this online or whatever, but as your sister do that, just look at her and be like, I don't get it. Can you explain? Explain to me how it's funny. Just, please. If people are gonna be crappy, then, make them fully lay their cards on the table so they can't hide behind, oh, it's just a joke. It's fine, if it's a joke, explain it to me. Story 2. My wife of 10 years told me she doesn't love me anymore. It was last week, and I was angry about dishes, which she typically washes the dishes, not me. Anyway, it was a nothing argument that I thought would be nothing and easy to get over. Came home from work to apologize, and that's when she said it. At first she said she doesn't think she ever loved me, but since we've talked, she's saying that she's already checked out and has been for a few years, and primarily over resentment at doing most of the housework and taking care of everyone all the time. She was a stay-at-home mom. She started working 2 months ago, and she hasn't worked since we met. No problem with that. It's what we both agreed would be best. She only recently went back to work because I was having trouble getting work. In the last year and a half, we've had many car issues. Our 5th child was born 2 months premature and spent the first 2 months in NICU, newborn ICU. And in January, I had colorectal surgery. All of these things made getting and keeping jobs almost impossible. Just trying to get all the context I can here. Our intercourse life has never been great. I initiate and sometimes, I guess, ask for it. She doesn't give head or want it, which all of these things I've come to terms with, just giving context. But every once in a while, there'd be a spark and then 2, 3, or 4 days or so of good, real good intercourse together, which was always welcomed and cool. Sometimes it will be a week or 2 that will go on, but we have lots of kids and a lot is going on pretty much all the time. So she suggested counseling for us years ago, and I said no. Until this happened, we never needed it. She threw it out there after a fight once. Now that we're going through this, I suggested it, and she doesn't want to go. We're stuck together financially. We owe the landlord a couple of grand and a few other people a couple hundred. It was a really bad 18 months. She said she's willing to stay until our debt is paid. I don't want to lose her or our family, but she's saying she doesn't know if she can uncheck out or check back in. That she's felt this way and she doesn't think she can get her head back in it. She says she does love me. Since the incident, the day she said this, I've been doing dishes and laundry and everything that she used to have to do. I told her that I was committed to her. I was sorry for not holding up my end and that it would never happen again, but again, she said she didn't know that she'd been checked out for so long. I'm suggesting spending time with each other when we can. Look, I need help on how to keep her from pulling away. She's not saying she wants to feel this way. I think she's convinced herself, and I don't know what to do. I've loved this woman since we met, and I'll never stop loving her. She's the mother of my kids, and I can't imagine life without her. If this goes through, which will take many, many months before she's able to physically move to a new place. And last note, our life has always been a struggle financially, but there's so much love and joy here, I don't know how this can be happening. And there's no cheating or beating or anything else involved at all. Should I give her space or try to reconnect with her? Okay, I'm going to throw out some judgments just based on what I've read. Know that I obviously don't know everything that's gone on in this relationship, who's done what, but from what I'm reading, first red flag for me, kind of against this poster, is they're saying that before she was like, I think we need to go to couples counseling, and this poster's reaction was like, no, there's nothing wrong. But then it's like, oh, but now I want the couples counseling because she threatened to leave me. Isn't that enough? Like, that's super reactive. Like, you were saying there was nothing wrong before when clearly she thought there was, otherwise she wouldn't have suggested it. And you've clearly had some other problems with, miscommunications or, just not lining up as far as intimacy and some other stuff. Like, it seems where there were some problems and you were like, look, everything was fine. Everything was just great. And now she's suddenly doing this. Things weren't. And now you're only doing this stuff kind of reactively to this to just get her to stay because she's finally put her foot down enough. Now, again, people can disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. As I said, I don't know this whole situation. I'm just reacting to what I see written here. And the way that this reads out is someone who didn't want to put in the work while the relationship was starting to deteriorate. And now that she's finally, decided to put her foot down and make a decision, now he's suddenly willing to put in the work. I don't know if that's a case or not, but that's how I'm going to at least interpret it. And maybe me saying that will be useful advice for someone out there. I don't know. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my sister and saying she's the one with the failing marriage, not me? My husband, 28 male, and I, 27 female, have been married for 2 years. We have an unusual sleeping arrangement. I'm a very light sleeper, and I've struggled with insomnia most of my life. It takes me a long time to fall asleep. Sometimes even the slightest noise wakes me up, and I have to start all over again. My husband, on the other hand, becomes some sort of taekwondo prodigy in his sleep with how much he kicks. He's been like this since he was a kid, and any attempt to stop it have been a failure. He sleeps like a rock, and he doesn't even realize what he's doing. He also talks in his sleep occasionally. I have a job that I need to get up super early for, so my sleep is important to me. When we first moved in together, we slept in the same bed, but of course that didn't work out. I was left exhausted. He just felt super guilty even when he wasn't consciously doing it. Eventually, we decided to have our sleeping areas in separate rooms. We weren't angry with each other at all. We understood that some people just have different sleeping habits. This has not affected our intercourse life at all. We still lay together in one of the beds to watch movies or something all the time. Sometimes we even fall asleep in the same bed, which I feel fine with as long as I don't have to work in the morning. It's a little unorthodox, but it's what works for us. My older sister Layla, 32 female, and her husband are going through a rough patch in their marriage. I think her husband's a huge a-hole. He cheated on her and made some BS excuse that he did it just because she was ignoring him and refused to fulfill his needs. She's so busy because they have 3 kids that he doesn't help with at all. I was shocked when she told me she was staying with him even after the affair was exposed. I tried to talk her out of it, but she told me to mind my own business, so I did. They're in marriage counseling now. From what Layla has relayed to me, it's not going well. She's been trying to change in order to fix their relationship. He doesn't even try to become a better husband. He just shoots some half-butted apology and justifies his actions. I hate him, but I guess it's her choice as a grown woman to stay. She's of course devastated, but also reacting weirdly to the whole thing. She's convinced herself it's all her fault. If she had just paid more attention to him, then none of this would have happened. I've tried to tell her that isn't true, but she doesn't listen. The other day she came to our apartment to chat so I could see my nieces. My husband was at work. She's actually never been to my apartment before. Her and her husband have a large fancy house, so I usually just go to them. With how these tense things are now, she said she'd prefer to come to my apartment. One of my nieces opened what she thought was the bathroom door. It was actually the door to my husband's separate bedroom. Layla saw inside that it was lived in, so she asked if we had gotten a roommate. I said no and just gave her a quick rundown of the situation. She seemed a bit weirded out but didn't say anything until my nieces were all in the living room watching a movie. She began to ask all these weird questions about our intercourse life, love for one another, etc. I said we were doing just fine, and some of the personal questions she asked were none of her business. She got a bit snappy and said that she's just trying to help me. If I left my husband out of my bedroom and didn't attend to his needs, he may just run off with some other woman. She told me to be careful and that it would be better to just sleep in one bed despite any sleep issues. She even said, you just have to keep an eye on him constantly so he won't feel the need to leave you for someone more attentive. I got frustrated. It wasn't even about the bedrooms anymore. She was just projecting her situation onto me. I was also upset she would suggest my husband would cheat on me for not being attentive enough. I snapped and sharply said that her husband is the cheating bastard, not mine. Just because her marriage is failing doesn't mean she gets to critique and coach mine. That made her super angry, and she immediately stood up and stormed to the living room to get her daughters and go home. She won't answer my calls. She just sent me one text that said she was just trying to help and to not be surprised when my husband cheats. My husband was offended as well, but said he understood she's going through a very tough time now. He suggested I was just a bit too harsh and should have let her get her paranoia rant out of her system and move on. Her mental state isn't all that good, and she's probably just not thinking clearly. My mom agrees with him. She said Layla was being weird and insensitive, but I shouldn't have said something so personal. That yelling at her will only push her further away from us and toward her a-hole husband. I actually feel kind of bad now. She's obviously not thinking clearly, and I should have just moved on. Am I the a-hole? So, I don't think you're completely an a-hole here, but I do think that your husband and mom make a good point. And I would keep in mind that, yeah, what she was saying was out of line. Like, you should be a little bit upset, and I would maybe get a little snippy back like, hey, don't appreciate you implying this stuff. We have no problems, like, I understand getting upset, but also understand that what she's saying, it's definitely projecting, but also might be coming from a place of concern for you. Like, oh no, I'm worried my sister is going to go through the same crap I've gone through. You can't trust men, even your husband, this and that. And again, it does not completely excuse what she said. What she said was out of line and just not great at all. But I would have tried to hold back the reaction a little bit instead of just saying your husband's a cheater, your marriage is failing. And I know you didn't say it like that, but it might have been a little bit harsh and a little bit a-hole-ish, but she might have been asking for it, oh yeah, come on, hit me, but you might have swung a little too hard. Story 4. Today I effed up by not washing my hands after making chili. Okay, so I was making chili while my daughter was at her friend's birthday party. I cut all the vegetables, including a couple of jalapenos, to give it a little heat. Now, my wife had told me not to make it too spicy, so I used my fingers to clean out the seeds and inside of the jalapenos before cutting them up and adding them to the chili. All fine, until I realized I lost track of time and have to collect the kids. Okay, I still have time, but here is where the F-up happens. I clean my hands quickly, then decide to go to the bathroom before I leave. Yes, it's what you expected, spicy penis fun. However, since I cleaned my hands a little, it didn't start to burn right away. I don't notice until I'm halfway to the house and I feel a tingle in my bits. I quickly realize what happened, certainly not for the first time, so not a big deal. Then it starts getting worse. But halfway through the party, I was very uncomfortable. It just keeps getting worse. By the time I get there, I'm almost in tears. It's only a 10-minute drive away, so I figure I'll get the kids to drive home quickly, get some oil or milk or something on it, and I'll be fine. Nope, not that easy. First, my daughter walks out of the party with her friend, saying I need to take her home. Normally this wouldn't be an issue, but now this adds 15 minutes to my pain. I certainly don't want to try to explain this to 2 teen girls, so I just accept my fate. Then, the mother of the birthday girl comes out and insists we get the cake you take home. I send the kid in to get cake, but the mother keeps inviting me in until it would be rude to not go say hi. F! So let me set the scene for you. I'm in a very fancy house with a dozen teen girls and a half-dozen rich dance moms. One of them is asking about my new car. I'm sitting there making small talk and it feels like my C is literally on fire. I try not to grab my crotch as I have 3 more dance seasons with these people and I don't want to be the creepy dad the whole time. Finally, I got out of there and about halfway home the pain died down. I tell my wife. She thinks it's the funniest thing I think she's ever heard. Wash your hands, people. Oh my god, yes! If you're working with spicy peppers and stuff, wash your hands thoroughly, or even better, you know those nice, black, kitchen latex or nylon or whatever gloves for cooking? You might not want to use it all the time, but when you're working with real spicy things like that, it's wonderful? You do all the seeds and stuff, and then you just get the gloves off, boom, boom, boom. Still give your hands a quick wash, and you're going to be saved from that. And as someone who once got, the bomb hot sauce, fans of hot ones, you know what I'm talking about. I got some of that in my eye. You don't want to have spicy stuff touching sensitive things. So be careful out there, everyone. This is a PSA from Mr. Facts. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.